I was about 13 when I took my first stab at actually trying to write on the wall. And we hopped this fence, I think, to make it, a little bit more cooler. We're gonna go hop this fence, and we hopped it, and we kind of look around to see if anyone was kind of, out there, keeping an eye or whatnot, and catch a little tag. I thought it was, I'd walk back over and just feel like the big dog.
I pitch blow like a trumpet. I bring rap justice.
I go by Reighe, or a lot of people know me as Bevs too. Basically, I'm just an artist out of the Inland Empire, based out of San Bernardino here. Been doing it for a while now, since I could remember. Yeah, it's essentially it. That's basically what it breaks down to. I'm Reighe. So, what got me into graffiti culture? The streets, really just kind of watching it. Since I was a kid, I remember kind of seeing it on the freeways, and essentially just kind of being around it as a kid. It was something that I found attractive. I found something that I could do out of it, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I don't know, all in all, I just thought it was something that looked cool as a kid. So essentially, when I got old enough to kind of meet friends and circulate around school and kind of get it up and do our things ourselves, I got involved in it. So that's essentially what, basically what it was. I don't know, it was just kind of like the street thing as a kid. I remember seeing, I've always been into different art, comic books, cartoons, stuff like that. I mean, almost all the regular things that kids kind of, gravitate towards. But graffiti was kind of something a little different. I remember kind of seeing it in the streets and really feeling like it looked cool, it was appealing, it was attractive. So I really can't say it was anything bad about it or anything that, I remember really being surrounded at the time as a kid, you kind of growing up in neighborhoods, you see gang graffiti and then you see hip hop graffiti, and I think they were both kind of really these attractive things. And I think there was a point where I did think it was kind of cool that there was, a bad element towards it, this kind of almost this mystery, this kind of vague, cryptic language that was kind of getting thrown on these walls. And I had no clue as to who did it, why they did it, what it meant, anything. It looked cool, it was visually appealing to me. So it wasn't until, like I said, I got old enough to do it myself that I decided to kind of take a stab at it. And even then, I had no real mentors or anyone to really kind of school me on how to kind of go about and do it. So I just went and did it and learned essentially by trial and error, The experience I felt or went through when I first picked up my first can of paint or did anything remotely illegal towards that was, there was this kind of sense of satisfaction, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I kind of felt like it was cool to do something that other people really weren't, there was no approval behind it, you know what I mean? It was almost like I was doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing. As a kid, I remember my mom, people kind of lose their train of thought, and sometimes they scribble down when they're talking on the phone and they're doing cubes or whatever the case is. And I remember her always talking on the phone, and she'd be doing these kind of this gang lettering, and I don't know why, but I found that kind of attractive at the time. So I'd copy it, I'd mimic it and do my thing. And then from the ages of like 8 to 12, I was always just kind of sketching this art form that I didn't really know what it was about, Mm-hmm. So essentially, when I kind of figured out more or less what graffiti was, I took my stab at it. And I think the first thing I can really kind of remember me doing was, I think the best access we had to any tools at the time was, getting like a Marks-a-Lot marker or something like that. And my brother taught me this cool trick also, because he was a year older than me, so he kind of schooled me in on some graffiti stuff. But he told me if you take the cap off the end of a Marks-a-Lot, you can kind of grab the sponge in there and kind of use it to tag. So I remember thinking that was really cool. So I think I can remember I was about 13 when I took my first stab at actually trying to write on a wall, and we'd hop this fence, I think to make it, you know, a little bit more cooler, like, oh yeah, we're gonna go hop this fence, you know, and we hopped it, and, you know, we'd kind of look around to see if anyone was kind of, you know, out there, you know, keeping an eye or whatnot, and I'd catch a little tag, you know, and I thought it was, you know, I'd walk back over and just feel like the big dog, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, this is cool, like I just got away with that, you know? But yeah, the sensation was just, it was pretty epic, you know what I mean? There was something a lot more romantic about it at the time, because you're young and you really don't know too much about it. You're just kind of learning, like I said, by trial and error. So it was one of those things that, for me, like I said, it was a milestone. It was pretty monumental, you know what I mean? So, oh man, my outlook on the graffiti culture, as far as how I started and where I'm at now, is totally insane, because like I said, I feel like I didn't really have anyone to kind of school me on anything, so really we were just kind of paving our own path at the time. Not really kind of knowing what we were doing, so we probably skipped a couple pages, or we probably did a lot more extra homework than we had to. I mean, it was just kind of us doing our thing. So I remember, along with, you know, catching tags and you know, doing all the kind of standard bombing and all that, we also got into painting these heavy pieces. And you know, maybe that form of graffiti was probably a little bit more advanced than we should have been doing at the time, but we still went at it. And I think because of that, we were kind of able to develop skills a little bit more earlier than most people, you know. So it was like the piecing and the tags, they kind of went hand in hand. So what we would do is, I remember when we were younger, we'd go down to the Orange Show swap meet, and we'd go, I think we'd all get like our allowances and stuff like that, you know, at a young age. And, you know, we'd go spend all our money on the only place we can buy paint, which, because at the time, you know, you gotta be 18 or over to buy the paint. So we'd go and we'd buy, I mean, duffel bags, and we'd ride the Omnitrans from wherever we were at to the Orange Show downtown. Go, and obviously they just want to make money, so they're gonna go ahead and sell us the paint. We would leave with duffel bags on the Omnitrans on the bus, bring it back home, and we were stocked up. Some of the people I looked up to, kind of being younger, you know, again, the graffiti wasn't, it wasn't as common or easy access as it was then as it is now. So you really didn't know who was who or what was what. You just kind of went based off whatever you seen on the walls, you know. So if you seen a name, that's all you knew about that person. But a real good introduction for me was my brother. I remember being young, and you know, visiting my dad on the weekends during summer, and, you know, linking up with my brother. And at the time we were really young, but I remember one summer going over there, and I just thought he was like the coolest thing, because he was already doing graffiti, you know. And at the time, you know, he had his looks on, and, you know, baggy pants and hair slicked back, and, you know, he's like, hey man, we're gonna go you know, walk around town and just go see what's up. So I was like, all right. Pulled out this Pilot marker, and I remember thinking it was the coolest thing. And at the time I was already into graffiti, but I had no real big time experience. So I think my brother was like super huge and just kind of opening that gate for me, and giving me like this day of just walking around Los Angeles, walking into yards, you know, checking out graffiti pieces, you know. And then, you know, he's catching tags with his marker, and you know, we're walking around the neighborhood, you know, he's shaking hands and, you know, saying what's up to girls. And it was just like the coolest lifestyle. I was like, man, that was a big part of I think, like, for me jumping into that pool and kind of being like, all right, like, this is what I want to do, you know what I mean? I want to do graffiti. You know, I think now there's still reasons why people should kind of keep it anonymous, you know what I mean? There's really good reasons, you know. You know, people can really build up these cases against themselves, and, you know, end up fucking themselves over for sure, you know. So it's one of those things where, you know, you can't help. I think in essence it is kind of like this real egotistical kind of sport. So you kind of want, I mean, you think about it, you're just putting your name around. You want people to know who you are. You're flexing your styles. You want to be the best. All revolving around your little community, around your culture, you know, because of that, people can't help but still put their faces in front of cameras and kind of put themselves out there. I think like I said, I think there's reasons behind why you should do it, but some people just don't care. Whatever. I mean, to each their own. At the end of the day, there used to be so many politics and so many rules and things to follow and stuff like that, you know, and that's cool. By all means, do it. If you're one of those people that don't really care, don't care, you know, just do what you do. You know, some of the politics that we used to kind of run by back in the day were a lot more serious, you know. There definitely is a fun side towards it, and I think that's what attracts everyone, you know. But there's also a pretty hostile, serious side towards, you know, graffiti and graffiti culture, and you know how deep some of that can go sometimes, where you almost forget in essence why you even started doing it to begin with, you know. And a lot of people kind of fall victim to that lifestyle. You know, everyone kind of takes their own roads, everyone kind of goes down their own paths or whatnot, and you know, you choose what you decide to do. For me, I could care less about anyone really telling me what I'm doing right or wrong, you know, and that kind of goes with anything in life in general. I just think if one day I decide to stop doing graffiti, I'm gonna stop doing it, you know what I mean? If one day I decide, you know, hey, I want to pick it back up, then I'll do that, you know. It's one of those things. So someone telling me I can't do this or do that, it's okay, because I'm not gonna listen anyways. You have your opinion, go ahead, have fun with it, you know. And I'm not knocking anyone else that does their own thing too, you know what I mean? If that's what they decide, then that's what it is, you know. Obviously, like I said, in nature, graffiti is gonna kind of be that anonymous thing that people can kind of chalk up as having these rules, and whether or not you sold out, or whether or not, you know, you're doing something wrong, or just someone calling you a toy or whatever it is. But again, it's like anything else. These are just opinions and kind of these made up imaginary lines that people say don't cross, but whatever, I don't care, you know, do your thing. For me, it's not an issue, as long as you're not stepping on my toes. Like, I could really give a shit, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like I said, because there has to be some element, I think, of standard involved with some of the stuff you do. I think you have to kind of hold a certain ethic to some of the graffiti you're gonna put out there, some of the artwork, or some of the stuff like that. And so again, I think there's certain things you can kind of maintain, but overall, I mean, if you're doing something I don't like, I mean, tough shit, I gotta deal with it, you know what I mean? It's not really, it is what it is, you know. So that's kind of how I feel about the politics and stuff like that, about it, revolving it, yeah. You know, it's again, people can take what they want from it, you know what I mean? Ultimately, when we started it, I mean, I'll just call it what it was. It was just, it's something that looked cool and was appealing, and it was bad, you know. There was things behind it that you weren't supposed to be doing, and you know, as a kid, all that sort of stuff sounds attractive, you know, and so you go for it. But you know, some people have their messages behind it. Some people have their you know, the feeling they're trying to convey, and that's cool all in all. I think for me, it's just kind of like this expressive outlet, you know, and without sounding too cliche about it, like it kind of feeds a certain sense of hunger inside of you that you just kind of have to maintain. You want to keep that stable, you know what I mean? So it's like, whatever I'm doing, it don't matter. Like, I always revert back to like doing something graffiti related, you know what I mean? And that keeps me fed for a while, you know what I mean? It's one of those things. So for me, it's like I said, whatever got into my head as a kid, and however I, you know, whatever influenced me as a young man, I think it's manifesting now through the artwork, and now you guys are seeing it in that way, you know what I mean? Right. So that's why I gotta get it out. I gotta get it out, you know what I mean? yeah, so I mean, people can take what they want from it. Ultimately, I think for me, as a kid, I was always really drawn towards stuff that was just bright and big and weird, and I think that's why I like graffiti, you know. And I think a lot of times that's what a lot of times I produce is some stuff that is just kind of weird and
something that, you know, the youth would like.
Yeah, you know, they you know, I get it from all types of people a lot of the times, that they dig on this or they dig on that, and you know, I think, you know, a lot of stuff that I've produced over the past 20 years, I'd say, a lot of times was just something cool to look at, you know, and a lot of times, you know, people really kind of came and engaged with us and were really even stoked to kind of even see that wall get done up, or see that you know there were kids out here that were kind of doing their thing, painting walls and stuff like that, that weren't out there gangbanging or doing whatever, you know, the rest of the kids were doing, you know. But yeah, that's you know, essentially it there. Oh man, what do I want people to say about me as an artist when it's all said and done? Geez, that's a good question. You know, I don't know. I think what I want them to take from that. I don't know, I guess that was ultimately my passion, and that's what I was meant to do. I mean, I've wrecked a lot of things in my life over the years because of graffiti, you know what I mean? And I mean, I know it sounds cliche to say, but there's no, I don't really feel like there's always, you know, everyone kind of takes these different paths, and I don't know if there's always the best outcome for it, you know? And I've definitely done my fair share to kind of wreck a lot of things in my life due to it. So I think that kind of goes to prove and show how much I've kind of dedicated myself towards it. And I mean, if there's one thing people can say about me is that for sure, like, it wasn't a fad, you know what I mean? It wasn't a part-time trend. It was, I mean, if it was, I would have been finished with it a long time ago, you know what I mean? So it's kind of one of those things that, you know, when it's all done and said, you know, if there's one thing they can take from that, it's that, you know, I never stopped, you know. That was always my passion, my goal, and it was my life, you know, something that was a huge part of me. If I had to kind of give any advice to anyone that was kind of coming up in it, I would say build yourself up and don't give a shit, you know. Just dedicate yourself, commit yourself. At the end of the day, I think you'll find out whether or not you're about it or not, you know. Have fun with it. That's ultimately, I think, the goal. You know, shout out to just having fun, you know, because that's essentially why we even got into it to begin with, was to have fun, you know. And I think again, a lot of people kind of forget about that, you know. So if you're coming up, you know, and you have work ethic as it is, I mean, and you got love for it, it's gonna kind of go hand in hand, you know. And I mean, don't listen to any of the haters, you know. People are always gonna have an opinion. I think that's kind of something you essentially have to kind of get used to, is someone's always gonna have this opinion, this critique about what you're doing wrong, why you should stop, you know, or whatnot. And I would just say, you know, you do you, you know, have fun.